Hey folks, quill18 here, bringing you another episode of the fantastic League of Legends podcast, Tower Dive. Once again, I'm here with my co-caster, co-commentator, co-podcaster, WatchMeSC.
Hey guys, what's up?
So we got a really exciting podcast lined up this week. Not a whole lot of delay from the last one that just got put up, but the last one kind of stewed around for a little while before getting uploaded. Sorry about that. Hopefully we'll get this one out right away.
That was my fault. My computer is having issues, so yeah. That's about all I gotta say. My uploading is being weird, and my internet is being disconnecting itself all the time. So if I jump out of the podcast for a minute or two, that's why.
Well, YouTube is pretty screwy even on the best of days. It's rejected a ton of my videos, and such a pain in the ass to have to re-upload them, and sometimes I get fed up and I don't re-upload.
Agreed. So yeah, where you start? Go ahead.
Oh, okay. I was just gonna say this week in League of Legends was a really big week. There was a big patch that came out a few days ago. Made a lot of changes, and I think there's a lot to talk about it.
Yeah, I agree. We're just gonna probably start off with that, and then we'll talk about the rest of it. Basically, the big things. I mean, there's a couple of new skins. Nothing really important there. PvP.net had a couple of things changed with it. So it should be a little faster, and that should hopefully work out. And the new champion is something we definitely need to talk about, is Urgot, the Headsman's Pride. And he's basically like a ranged, kind of like, he turns into like a little bit of a tank later on, depending on how you build him. Obviously, you can build him AP, but I've seen him like semi-tanky, kind of like the release that, what's his name did? Freak, the video he did. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, Quill said he hasn't played against him very much, or with him very much, because you were gone this week, right?
That's right. I actually haven't seen him at all. I've only played a couple of games since the patch came out, and he was not in either of them.
Yeah, so, I mean, we'll just talk about, I'll just read his abilities to you guys, for those of you who don't know. His passive is enemies hit by Urgot have their damage output lowered, which helps him later on in the game tank. I don't know the math behind it. Maybe Quill has a page open where the math is visible, or you can get one open while we're doing this.
Yeah, you keep talking, I'll get it up there.
His Q ability is he fires a straight missile that deals damage to the first enemy it hits. If an enemy is hit by a corrosive charge, which is his E ability, then Acid Hunter can target lock onto them, guaranteeing a hit. So normally it's like a skill shot almost, and if you get a target lock on them with your E ability, you can like click on them and guarantee a hit. Basically, it's like an auto-targeted thing. And his W ability is a shield, and it slows enemies with each hit until the shield is depleted or the time runs out on it. And we have Noxious Corrosive Charge. The second ability is called Terror Capacitor, and the first ability is called Acid Hunter. Sorry about that. And the third ability, Noxian Corrosive Charge. He fires a corrosive missile to a location that splashes to enemies on impact, dealing damage and lowering their armor, and allowing him to target lock them with his Q, Acid Hunter. So E and Q do a pretty good combination to getting some good harassment out, and it's got a decent range. So that can be quite annoying early on. And then his ultimate, which I am personally not really a fan of, it target locks onto a champion, and he swaps positions with them, gaining armor and magic resist in the process, and he kind of stuns them for a minute. That's why they can't do anything. But, I mean, it doesn't deal any damage, and a lot of times I've seen not the best Urgots use it and get themselves killed. So Quill, do you have anything to say?
Well, I've got the pages up with the numbers here, and just looking at the between his passive and his Terror Capacitor, he's got some crazy amount of debuffing ability here. His passive reduces the target's damage by 15%. That's a huge amount.
Yeah.
I guess the idea is you do that, you turn on his Terror Capacitor and you target the enemy's carry, and you will really diminish their abilities considerably.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Is it all damage or just physical damage?
It just says the damage dealt by its target by 15%. Now, sometimes that stuff's kind of vague, so it sounds like everything, but it might just be physical.
Yeah, if it applies to everything, that's pretty good, and I would assume it does, because I figure it would say, physical damage or something.
Mm-hmm. Now, his ultimate, the Hyperkinetic Position Reverser, definitely sounds like a mix of the sort of stuff you see Blitzcrank and Mumu do. It's kind of a combination of the two. And, I mean, I'm a big fan of Blitzcrank for his ability to pull people out of out of their safe zone and into your guys or whatever. But this one, you do that, but you potentially put yourself in the middle of the enemy. And unlike a Moo, you're not going to be following this up with a giant AoE route. So I'm not a big fan of that ultimate either. Yeah,
I agree. Just like you said, I was going to talk about a Moo. It's like when a Moo gets in there, he has the ultimate to follow up. So he's got a way to get out and a way to deal with being next to 4 other opponents. So. Yeah, I mean, Urgot is okay. I've seen a couple good ones. I mean, I don't really have that much to say about him other than he seems like a solid champion.
Oh, does he? Okay. I wasn't sure about that. Just looking at his abilities, it seems very gimmicky, and that has, it's either going to be all hit or all miss, basically, is what it seemed like to me.
Yeah, I mean, from the ones I've played, they did decent. I mean, I didn't see anyone, honing with him. And I did see a few guys failing, but that's to be expected since he's still pretty new. It took me, a week or two of using Vlad to fully understand, all his limits and stuff.
Yeah, and Vlad definitely had a lot of fail at first, but now, we just got out of a game where SC went something like 26-23 or something like that. It was ridiculous. He just completely owned everyone all the time with Vlad.
Yeah, I like me some Vlad. So, I guess we're just going to move on through the patch notes and I'm just going to make a quick mention of some of the ones that are more important and then the ones that we'll highlight some of the other ones that are more significant. Akali has her passive for Twin Disciplines raised, so now she'll gain 1 spell vamp for every 5 additional attack damage, up from 10 additional attack damage. So that's relatively significant. It's going to give her a lot more spell vamp. Go ahead.
I guess, but spell vamp always seemed to me like something that was not terribly impressive. I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of lifesteal, although I definitely see how high attack damage units really take advantage of it, but I'm even less of a fan of spell vamp, personally. Although it's nice that she gets it for free.
Yeah, I agree, but it's also in between her Q, which when she hits them it applies magic damage, and then when she melees them it also applies additional magic damage.
Right.
It's relatively significant considering her AoE circle attack. I don't know what it's called, but that also deals magic damage, and I think her ult does too.
Yeah, I think they do. And so she does have a lot of spells, obviously, but I don't know. I guess depending on how much attack damage she has, it could add up to a lot of spell vamp, but I don't know. It doesn't seem like a huge thing to me.
Yeah, I agree. And the next person on the list is Annie. Molten Shield now reflects damage to all normal attacks instead of just melee. Again, that's not really significant, but it's going to deal a lot more damage to, Teemo, Ashe, other people who are doing ranged attacks.
Yeah, this was important because Annie needed a buff, right?
Agreed. Yeah.
One of the best characters in the game.
So, Anivia Flash Frost Pass-Through will now break Spell Shield, so that's good. Anivia seemed pretty solid as she was, but that's an okay one.
Mm-hmm.
Ezreal got a little debuff. His Mystic Shot attack damage ratio decreased from 1.0 to 1.0 from 1.1.
Meh.
Yeah, agreed. So Galio, he got is this a buff?
It's debuffs his taunt radius, increases the damage radius, but it's such a small one either way. It doesn't seem like anything. I think it's just more representative of what the circle on the ground looks like.
Okay.
Because look, when I would use it, it seemed like it would taunt people slightly outside the circle, which was a little bit weird, so I think it's just an adjustment there.
Okay. Garen, Judgment now reduces the duration of new slows by 50%, rather than granting immunity to slowing effects. So, I've noticed that actually it's pretty significant. When, I'm using Vlad, obviously, I use Vlad a lot now, so I use my Q on him when he's... Is Judgment the one where he spins?
I think so, yeah.
That's what I figured, because that's the one that he always uses. Mm-hmm. But whenever he's using that now, when I pull him, he starts to get slowed down, and it really hinders his ability to get in and get out using Judgment.
Yeah, Garen's a very flavor of the month right now, so maybe a small adjustment downwards is a good idea. I don't think this is really going to affect anything either way. Now, the next change is a huge, huge change to a flavor of the month champion.
Agreed, and I'll let you talk about this one.
Yes, it's all about Heimerdinger, and he's, of course, my love. I know that WatchMeSC, you play Heimerdinger a fair bit as well, but I've just ranted and raved about him so much. So
Agreed.
It's a pretty significant nerf to him. Basically, now his max turrets are capped at 3, at 2, sorry. So now at rank 4, instead of getting your 3rd turret, your turrets will now get an extra 100 bonus health. So they are a little bit more sturdy and won't get like one-shotted by some of the later game heroes quite as easily. But it's definitely an overall nerf. I guess they reduced his cooldown a little bit too, or no?
It's only at levels like 4 and 5.
Right. So actually, at level 1 the cooldown is slightly longer, and then at 4 and 5 the cooldown is shorter. Doesn't really make a big difference, I guess. And the big one, and they hinted about this several weeks ago, actually, that the concussion grenades would no longer affect towers and buildings. So he's going to have a much harder time sort of rushing down a tower. And I think, didn't they add a more recent patch also make it so that his own turrets only did half damage to towers?
Yep. Yes, sir, they did.
So all in all, his ability to push towers or to get the towers down quickly have been significantly reduced. And I don't know. I guess it's fine. It's always hard to accept a nerf to a champion you like a lot, but frankly, if it means that other people will be playing Heimer less and he will be banned less in ranked games, I'm okay with that because he's still Heimer and he's still a sex machine, and I'll still use him.
He is never banned in ranked games anymore.
Oh, yeah?
But, no, I haven't seen him banned once since the nerf.
Oh, since the original nerf, yeah, okay.
No, since this nerf.
Oh, since
this was done like...
Yes, you're right, it was last week.
This was a couple days ago.
Yeah.
So...
Okay.
I haven't seen any Heimer since then. Any Heimer bans or basically any Heimer usage. And I think between the turret buff, the turret debuff before this that they only deal 50% damage to towers, and now the buff to only make 2 turrets, and the debuff, and the debuff to the grenades, I think his pushing ability has been decreased by like at least 1/3 to almost like 2/5, like 30 to 40% decrease here in how much he's able to push, and I think that's a huge debuff. I think it might be a little too much, but
I think one thing to clarify is he can still push fairly well, which is to say push a minion wave and get to a tower. Yeah. He does have one turret less, but he can still pretty much move it. The question is, once he gets to that tower, what can he do? Now, on the other hand, and we'll get to this later on, he will have gotten nerfed another way, because AP will now increase your damage you do to towers.
Oh, okay.
We'll get to the bottom. We'll get to that a little later in the patch notes here. We should probably speed through this, I think, unless you got more to say about Heimer.
Not really. So, Karthus, his ultimate Requiem mana cost significantly reduced by 50, 125, and 200. So that's pretty significant. Kassadin's attack range was increased by 5. Whoop, big whoop. And magic resistance gain per level increased from 1.25 from 0. Kennen, he got a pretty significant buff here, and his electrical surge ability power ratio increased by 0.1. Lightning rush, which is his running ability, where he runs fast, the energy cost was reduced by 10, making it now 100. Lightning rush now provides magic resistance and armor for 4 seconds, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 at all 5 levels, or there's the 5 levels for you. Slicing Maelstrom, his ultimate ability power increased. Maximum number of bolts increased to 6, 10, and 15 from 6, 8, and 10, which is still retains the cap of 3 hits per target. But it removed the cap of applying only 1 Mark of the Storm per target, so he can basically stun almost the whole team with his ultimate now.
Yeah, I think that's the most significant change right now. His ultimate is a beast now, I think, just looking at the numbers.
Yeah, it's much, much better, but he's still pretty fragile. His passive stun duration was reduced, however, to 1 second from 1.25, and it also now has a diminished stun effect if applied more than once within 7 seconds, so you can't stun them for as long and as many times